Okay guys, welcome back to another video. It is now Friday the 10th of January and I'm currently sat in Downside Abbey. It's very cold in here today, so I'm going to try and not take too long, but I'm going to be filming a Q&A for you today. You guys have sent me messages on my Instagram. If you haven't followed me on there yet, it's at Reductio Music. I put a story up a few days ago, I think, asking for some questions for the Q&A, so I thought I'd film that today and yeah, answer your questions. Adrian Dinham says, some organists play without shoes. What are the benefits of doing so? So yeah, lots of organists play in different footwear. It probably depends on what you're used to. I now just wear some kind of flat-soled suit shoes that I've worn for years. And these were actually, I kind of just wore them with a suit and I played with them because that's what I was wearing. Before I started wearing like specific shoes, I actually wore my trainers to play a lot of the time. And these were like thick, I think they're called Adidas Sambas maybe. I can't remember what they're called, but they're very thick shoes. I'll try and get a picture of them. And for my organ scholarship trial at Cambridge, I'd already been to Oxford. So the thing about an organ scholarship at Cambridge is that, or an organ scholarship in general, is if you apply to do one at either Oxford or Cambridge, you can actually apply to both, which is unique. So you can usually only apply to Oxford or Cambridge, but because if you apply with an organ scholarship, you can go to both because obviously organists are in short demand. And they put it together, your trials go together, so one after the other, so you go to Oxford, then Cambridge, or Cambridge, then Oxford. When I had my trials, I went to Oxford first, then I went to Cambridge. Went to Oxford, didn't get in, and I got told the night before I went to Cambridge. That was pretty brutal. Didn't get in, I got the email like 10 PM at night, and then I struggled to sleep. But I knew I had to get the bus to Cambridge the next day and go and do it all again. So I didn't get to Oxford. So at this point, I'd already done it once. So I was feeling a little bit more like, okay, I've done this now. The pressure's not so much. I'm used to this. But also I was like, oh, I've failed here. So I'm just gonna screw it up. I'm just gonna do as well as I can to get this done. And got to Cambridge and went through kind of some of the interviews, had some of the academic interviews, and then had like there's like one main trial where you play like a couple of pieces, you do some sight reading, some improvisation and some transposition, I think. I can't really remember. I think that's kind of the gist, and all of the kind of heads of the different colleges, the directors of music, are sat downstairs listening to you and basically judging what you're doing. So that's pretty scary. But I decided last minute, I was like, do I wear my organ shoes or do I just wear my trainers? And so I decided last minute, I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear my trainers. And the piece I was playing was actually quite difficult. It was Bach's Trio Sonata in E flat. It was this one, it was something like that. I can't really remember how it goes now, but it was quite tricky, a lot of footwork as well. And I remember the look on the organ scholar's face who was kind of doing the registrations, who was stood next to me as I turned up and started playing my trainers. He looked at me like I was a bit of a nutter. Because I definitely shouldn't have been playing trainers for that. But that was kind of something which I think is quite funny because that performance actually went really well and it got me into Cambridge. So that's also something that I kind of look back on with fondness because I definitely shouldn't have been going in there wearing trainers, especially thick trainers like that, but it worked. So some organists play without shoes. That's a long way of saying some organists play without shoes because it suits their way of playing. Obviously, you have less of a surface area if you're not playing with shoes, which might be helpful if you need to maneuver quickly around notes. But personally, I find it more comfortable to play in shoes, but some organists will find it comfortable to play without. So it's just personal preference. I don't actually think there are any benefits apart from potentially the one I just mentioned, but I think, yeah, it's just a matter of comfort and personal preference. The next question is, what's your favourite takeaway? That is a very good question, and it's probably going to have to be a curry. Indian curry. Yeah, I love a curry. My favourite one to get usually is a chicken madras, so quite spicy, not the spiciest. Like I couldn't handle a vindaloo, that'd just be too spicy. I had a dansak once as well, which I think is another really spicy one, and I couldn't finish it because like I was dripping with sweat. But yeah, definitely a curry is a favourite go-to. I do like pizza as well, but trying to cut that out at the moment because I'm on a bit of a diet. So yeah, it's curry at the moment. Henley Gidzenberg says, how old were you when you started playing the organ? So I was 13 when I started playing the organ. I played the piano beforehand. I've played the piano since I was about 5, and most organists do tend to have played the piano before they start the organ. But yeah, I played the piano first and then took up the organ at 13. My music teacher at the time, Christopher Tambling, kind of joked that my footwork was good and would be good because of my football skills, and I used to be quite good at football. I used to play a lot of football at school and outside of school in my school years. So yeah, he kind of joked, "Oh, your footwork's good because of your football skills and your footwork in football." And yeah, from there he was kind of very inspiring and getting me started. And then I learnt the organ at school with a teacher called Toby Marshard from 13 to 18, and then went on to Cambridge with an organ scholarship, and then came out of university. When I was actually at Cambridge and beforehand at school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the organ. It was just an instrument that I was learning, and it was a bit different. My older brother also played it before me, so that was kind of another reason why I took it up, because obviously I'd seen him do it. But yeah, it was only until I came out of university and I started working in Bristol that I realised that I wanted to do a career in music, and I realised the organ probably needs to be a part of that because it's so unique and not many people do it. And obviously playing like modern tracks on the organ is also even rarer. So I thought if I can use this kind of USP to my advantage, then maybe I could actually build some sort of career out of it. And here we are, a few years later. Saint Mosling says, would you like to be a cathedral organist? If so, which one and why? So I've actually thought about this a couple of times because there have been opportunities where I could have applied. There was an opening at Wells Cathedral relatively recently that I kind of looked into, but kind of figured I didn't want to do it in the end, just because I don't think it suits what I'm doing at the moment. And I feel kind of like a cathedral organist here at the Abbey. Obviously it's an Abbey, it's not a cathedral, but it's a very similar setup. But the way that it's run here is much more suited to what I'm doing currently, because obviously I'm spending the week, filming content, writing new music, preparing like concerts, and then I'm going off and doing all these live shows and composing new music and trying to get all this new music out. So my days are mostly spent doing that. Obviously as a cathedral organist, you're spending a lot of your time taking rehearsals and conducting choirs, and that's definitely a good skill that I want to develop at some point, but currently it's not something that I want to focus on. And here the setup is that I just turn up on Sunday and play. Occasionally I'm needed for a rehearsal, but it's very, very rare. Usually I just learn the music in the week and then I turn up on Sunday and play, and I don't have to turn up to any rehearsals. And it's very, very flexible in that sense, and I really, really like that. It's a really nice setup. There are many nice cathedrals around the UK. I mean, I'd even think about going abroad to Europe, or even to America, to a big church or even a smaller church, because some of the small churches out in America are still massive, especially in comparison to the UK. So I'm definitely thinking about that. I'm keeping it as an option. Obviously Wells Cathedral is a lovely cathedral, but I just think for my lifestyle currently and what I'm trying to do with the composition and with the music production and planning and creating all these live shows and doing the online stuff, I need a lot of time to do that, and being a cathedral organist somewhere wouldn't quite suit that at the moment, I don't think. So yeah, that's the answer. But if I had to choose one and I had to leave here, that was the other thing, I'd have to leave Downside Abbey, and I've grown up here and I just feel like this is my home, and I enjoy playing here. I love the organ here. I've played in quite a few cathedrals and there are not many that come close to the quality of this organ, and I just love where it's situated. There's so many great things about the Abbey here. I can't say enough good things about it. But if I had to choose one, maybe Manchester Cathedral. It's got quite a nice organ, or Wells Cathedral, just because of its proximity and because of its architecture and its beauty. And obviously I know quite a lot of people there, and they're all very, very nice. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really give you a straight answer for that one, unfortunately. But yeah, the answer is no currently, but also yes, because I am kind of a cathedral organist. It's just not your average cathedral organist life. Ray Gwads says, which composer had the greatest influence on you musically? That's a tough one. It's also quite hard to know, because you kind of listen to so much music and then without even thinking, certain styles come out in your writing and in your playing. But I definitely say in my classical writing, definitely Mozart. It's kind of that classical style. It's quite simple, but it works very well. It's very effective. And that's definitely a style that I've tried to implement in my own writing. I just love the chord progressions. They just sound very, very nice. Definitely the more kind of classical and kind of German side of music. So Bach, obviously Mozart and Haydn, that kind of classical style. I'm not such a big fan of kind of more modern composers. With the dance side, I mean, that's completely different. You've got people, I mean, the first person who inspired me in the dance world was a DJ called James Hype, and he's a very, very prolific and talented DJ. He can do some very, very unique techniques on the DJ controller, which I was very, very impressed by when I first saw it. I thought this was really inspiring, and that's what got me into DJing and producing dance music, was seeing someone like him really taking it to the next level and doing something different. So it's hard to say, definitely, but definitely in the classical world, Mozart, I listen to a lot of his music. I find his music some of the most enjoyable to listen to. It's very melodic. The harmonies are very, very pleasant. So him and Bach are probably the ones I listen to, but I don't actually listen to that much classical music in my spare time. It's mainly dance music, and on that side of things, yeah, probably James Hype, but again, like, it's hard to say. Robert MK says, what is it that makes you enjoy organ music? I'd say I definitely enjoy playing organ music more than I enjoy listening to it. So I don't actually listen to that much organ music in my spare time. It's more about, for me, the process of playing it, which is enjoyable. Obviously, I understand there are lots of people who enjoy listening to it, but for me, it's the playing of it. You feel very powerful when you sit down at an organ. You obviously have all of these different sounds at your disposal. It's kind of like producing music, because you have all of these different sounds. You're trying to mash all these sounds together. You're trying to match them up and create different textures. It's also very cathartic. If you've had a stressful day, or you're feeling very stressed, or you're feeling a bit down, like, you can play the organ, and it's so powerful, it's so grand, it's so majestic. It just kind of has that cathartic element to it, I think. And being at the forefront of that is a very, very powerful and unique thing. And, leading congregations in hymns, again, like, it's a very powerful thing. It's a very unique experience. Because you're the driving force within this shared experience. So it's not exactly the organ music itself, it's more the experience of playing the organ, which is why I'm so drawn to it. And, also the effect that it has on other people and other people enjoying it. I enjoy seeing other people enjoy it, but I wouldn't necessarily sit down and listen to lots of organ music, because that's not the kind of music that I tend to listen to, and each to their own. But that's just my preference. But yeah, it's more about the playing of it and the writing of it and the composition, and then being able to put that into a live show and creating all these live shows. I'm going to Northern Ireland in March, being able to do a live show there that has dance music combined with the organ, and I'm doing both at the same time. I'm DJing and playing the organ at the same time. Those kind of things really, really interest me, and it's kind of trying to reinterpret the organ and show it in a different light, because it's such a powerful instrument, it has so many different capabilities, and yeah, I just don't want to kind of miss out on any of the potentialities that it has. So another question from Alan Holtham: which football team do you support? So I support Southampton FC, also known as the Saints. They're having a terrible season at the moment. They're bottom of the Premier League. I think they've won one game, which is the one game that I went to see at St Mary's, which is their stadium. Yeah, they're a great team, and they're just having a very, very poor season. They're kind of known for scouting out very good young talent. Like, they scouted out Gareth Bale, and they kind of developed him. They developed Theo Walcott. They developed Adam Lallana, Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk, one of the biggest defenders in the world now, one of the best defenders in the world now. They kind of took him from his Dutch league, I think, and Southampton was the first club that kind of introduced him to the Premier League. So they have a really good system of finding these really good players, but then all the players seem to leave, and Southampton are kind of left with the dregs, but probably quite a lot of money. But yeah, we had a great season last season. Won the championship playoffs against Leeds. But yeah, this season's been terrible. I do enjoy watching football occasionally. I don't follow it as avidly as I used to. I used to be absolutely football crazy when I was at school, and even into university. Like, I just used to follow football all the time. Me and my brother would watch Match of the Day every single weekend. We'd play football like from morning till dark. We'd like set up little torches so we could play outside even after dark, because we just loved it so much. So I played hours and hours of football, and if I hadn't become a musician and really wanted to focus on this, I definitely would have tried to become a professional footballer. And for a long period of my life, I actually tried to become a professional footballer. I got into the kind of regional academies. I had a stint at ISFA, the Independent Schools Football Association, so I had some games against like different teams there, like Derby County, Crewe Alexandra I think we played against as well. But yeah, I didn't quite get to the level where you needed to get into an academy, which is a shame in some ways, because I do really miss playing football, and that's definitely a path that I would have tried to go down if I hadn't focused on the music. And at university I played a lot of football as well, but yeah, I do miss that a lot. But yeah, that's a long way of saying Southampton FC. Bill Ed Colinek says, which organ is your favourite? So the Compton organ here at Downside I absolutely love. It's a majestic organ. It fills the space so well because of the way it was built. Loads of different sounds to use as well. Yeah, it's just the tuba stop is very, very powerful. Obviously I'm very used to this one, which is partially why I love it, because I know my way around it. But of the other ones I've played, I do enjoy playing the Wells Cathedral organ. The organ in Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral is very, very interesting because the way it's designed, it's kind of circular, so the sound kind of swells around you, which is very unique. It threw me off at first, but then once I got used to it, I could play okay. But yeah, apart from that, this organ is definitely my favourite, the one at Downside Abbey. It's just so powerful and so loud and has so many different possibilities. Antonio Leva says, are you Catholic or Anglican? So I'm baptised Catholic. Obviously I've had a lot of work and I've done a lot of playing within the Anglican church as well. But yeah, I am baptised Catholic. I'm raised Catholic by my parents. In some ways a lapsed Catholic, in other ways not. I think it's still something that I'm grappling with. There are things that I agree with Catholic Church on, and there are things that I'm questioning, let's say. So it's still a journey, I think, and not a straightforward one. Faith is a difficult thing, and what faith actually means, again, is a complicated question in itself. So there's another question that asks me about my religious beliefs, so I'll probably cover it more in that question. But yeah, baptised Catholic. Hesna Ezgi says, your music is lit. Do you have a degree in classical music / how did you come up with the idea? So no, I don't have a degree in classical music. I did music GCSE, so I did some classical music for that. But after that, I didn't actually study any music or musical composition, so it's all been kind of learned as I go. The same with music production. I just took that up at university, in my second year of university, I think, and I've just learnt it on the job, watched YouTube videos, and just sort of become gradually better and better. So yeah, it's just an idea that's kind of slowly developed. When I first started producing music, I actually first started making like tech house, like generic tech house music. And then I kind of obviously was like, oh, I do have this classical element to me, can I try and weave that in? So I kind of started weaving that into the tech house. And then I started weaving in the organ to the dance side and the pop side as well. So it's kind of been a gradual process and lots of trial and error. You know, there's been quite a good reception to like the classical remixes and more classical style. So I'm going to kind of keep trying to develop that, and obviously keep also writing the classical music. I would say I kind of also have, how would I describe it? Maybe musician's ADHD. Kind of, I can't just write one genre of music. Like I have to write different genres to keep my mind interested. So I'll write organ music, and then after a little bit, I feel like I've kind of drained my mind or my psyche of however much organ music I can write for a little bit. So I'll have to move on to piano music, or I'll have to move on to dance music. And I can kind of jump between them because it allows me to then be creative in a different musical sphere, whilst also keeping things interesting to me and also keeping ideas fresh. And it also doesn't put any pressure on me to kind of constantly be coming up with ideas in one musical kind of genre or zone, because if I'm struggling to write organ music, I can sit down at a piano and write some choral music, or sit down at a piano and write some music for classical soprano and orchestra, which is something that I'm working on currently. You probably would have heard a couple of clips from stuff that I've posted recently. So it's very varied, but yeah, the idea to kind of mash up the dance and classical stuff is just my own interests. That's what I'm interested in. I like dance music, and I also like playing classical music. Cameron JP99 Shout out to Cameron, he's one of my good friends from school. If you could have dinner with 3 musical artists, any genre, who would they be and why? So I'm assuming living or dead. And I would definitely say Mozart, because not only is his music absolutely amazing, but his personality, from what we can tell, is pretty outrageous. So I'd definitely like to just see what he was like and see what went on in that wacky brain of his. Probably Matt Bellamy from Muse. I think he's also got a very classical background, and he's kind of used that and used it and kind of reinterpreted a lot of classical styles into kind of rock and obviously the sound that Muse is today. So I'd like to kind of get to know him a bit more, and his way of writing and his way of mashing up the classical with the more modern music, because he does that very well. Muse have done that very well. They've sampled lots of different classical pieces into their music. So that'd be an interesting one. This might push the boundaries a bit, but he is technically a musical artist, and that's Nietzsche, because he actually wrote a little bit of music. He wrote a bit of piano music, and he wrote a bit of choral music as well. So potentially Nietzsche. He's not really a musical artist, but again, that'd be an interesting dinner. Mozart, Nietzsche, and Matt Bellamy. And Nietzsche in his own right was definitely, towards the end of his life, was pretty mental, and he again had some very unique views and unique ways of looking at the world. So I think that would come to be a very interesting dinner. And I'm very interested in Nietzsche's work and his very fresh take on things. I think he kind of saw into the future in a way that perhaps not many people had before him, especially with the way that culture has moved now, and obviously the absence of religion has created pretty much what he predicted, this kind of nihilistic void. And he's got some very cutting views. Some are insightful, some maybe not so insightful, but I'd definitely like to sit down with him and discuss those further in depth, that's for sure. David Sproston says, what would be your desert island discs? That's a tricky one. A lot of my musical tastes, not musical taste, but the kind of songs that I listen to change quite a lot over time. So I kind of listen to a song, or discover a song, listen to it quite a lot, and then don't listen to it for a while, and then kind of rediscover it later down the line. So I'm trying to think of tracks that I always tend to come back to. Definitely Stereo Love by Edward Meyer. It's mainly dance music, because that is kind of what I enjoy listening to. And if I'm, stuck on a desert island, I want to be able to dance. There's not much else to do. So Stereo Love by Edward Meyer, that's a really, really great song. And I've heard it, because I think it was made in the early 2000s, so I kind of heard it when it was first made when I was a child. And then I've kind of heard it again and again. I remember listening to it in the car on the way to football training at university once, and I hadn't heard it in like a couple of years when I was there. So it was nice to hear that again. I listened to that quite a lot actually, probably every other day or every few days. There's also another track that I listen to at the moment, which is a much heavier track called For You by Martin Ekin, and it samples Crazy in Love by Beyonce and Jay-Z. But it's a great house track, tech house track, really, really powerful, which I'm enjoying at the moment. But again, it's a certain mood and a certain vibe. In terms of classical music, probably some part of Mozart's Requiem, maybe the Domine Jesu, just because I really enjoy the Quam Olim Abrahe section. The basses come in with like a Quam Olim Abrahe. It's just, that's a great moment. There's a song by Alesso, who's like an EDM producer, called If I Lose Myself, which again, dance track, but it's kind of more emotional, and the chord progressions in that are really, really nice, and the production is really, really nice. So potentially that one. There's a track called I'm On That by The Manor, who are kind of like a UK rap group. They're kind of quite laddish, and they're from London, and I really enjoy listening to them. I used to listen to them a lot. I don't listen to them so much now, but there's a song called I'm On That, which is really upbeat and lively, got a lot of energy again. I like to listen to quite lively, energetic music. Maybe part of The Messiah by Handel. Essentially, Surely He Hath Borne Our Griefs. Soave Sil Vento by Mozart, that's a really, really relaxing one. And actually, I think there's been studies done that if you listen to Soave Sil Vento, your kind of levels of negative emotion, like stress and anxiety, are reduced quite drastically after listening to that. So that's definitely one to take. But there's a few there. Soave Sil Vento by Mozart, Mozart's Requiem, Surely He Hath Borne Our Griefs by Handel. I just love the drama. Again, I love dramatic classical pieces. That's really what I enjoy listening to. Zadok the Priest potentially, but I mean it's really the intro for that I enjoy. After that, I'm not so enamoured by it, but the intro is probably one of the best intros in classical music. I'm sure there's others as well that I just haven't listened to in a while, but yeah, that's kind of how things go with me. I kind of listen to a track, really enjoy it, and then discover it again. Maybe some Avicii. I like Avicii as well. And Robert M. Flock again says, are you religious? So this is an interesting question. I answered a similar question on my last Q&A, which was, I think it was a couple of years ago now, or a year and a half ago. It's quite an interesting question, are you religious? It depends what you mean by religious. I think I am religious, yes. I grapple with religious questions quite a lot. Do I believe in God? I'm going to pull a Jordan Peterson and say, what do you mean by God? It's quite an interesting one. And what does belief mean? Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Belief, what does it mean to believe something? Is it the way you act? Is it what you say? Is it your mindset, your approach to things? And belief in God is a tricky thing in itself, I think, because it's faith, and faith is not a straightforward thing either. I think faith is... It depends where you think faith comes from. Is it something rational? Is it something that's above the rational? Is it super rational? Or is it non-rational? And, you know, I've read a lot of Freud. I did a lot of Freud at university, kind of discussing his view versus Aristotle, but I kind of read around him and I've started reading a bit of him again, and, you know, he views religion, along with quite a lot of other psychologists and psychoanalysts, as something that is a human response to suffering and death in some ways. Ernest Becker, in The Denial of Death, which I've picked up recently, you know, says that especially religion in particular is a response to death, and, you know, it is a response to death. It's whether it's a true response or whether it's a false response. And, you know, obviously you can't say for sure either way. Am I religious? Yes, I'd say. If someone asked me that and just wanted a yes or no answer, I'd say yes, but I think it's a very complicated question. I think religion is being chased out of society, and it's becoming very clear that you can't simply chase religion out. God is in many ways a cultural necessity. Defining God, what God is does that mean the universe? Does it mean the being that upholds the universe? Is it a being that has human qualities, like, you know, being all loving, being all powerful, these kind of, you know, traditional qualities that people ascribe to God? Again, that's not clear. What are the implications of that? So yeah, it's a complex question, and it's not something that I have the answer to, and it's not something I think I'll ever have the answer to. But I am more inclined to, you know, I'm sympathetic with Nietzsche's criticism of religion, which is that, you know, some people can use religion as a way of not actually living their life on earth to the full extent, because they're always looking to the next life, and I think that can potentially be a mistake. So yeah, it's a tricky one, and I think it's a journey that you go on being religious. And this is just continuing the final kind of bit of that question. But yeah, I think we're seeing now the ramifications of chasing religion out of society. I think God is culturally necessary, and yeah, what it means to believe in God is not straightforward, for me at least. It's a very complex thing, and the ramifications of that I don't think are straightforward either. But yeah, as I said, I kind of feel like I'm ducking the question by, you know, asking all these further questions. What do you mean by God? What do you mean by belief? And also, belief in God is separate from being religious in my mind. So my camera died again. So yeah, just finishing the last bit of this question, guys. Do I think Nietzsche's concerns with religion have some strength? Yes. I think you can overlook the life that's right in front of you, and overlook the fact that you should try to become the best version of yourself in this life, and we're constantly looking to the next. I think that's a very valid criticism. And I think that, you know, the idea of Marx and, you know, potentially Freud, that kind of religion is something that can control the masses, I think that's, again, a valid criticism. But I think we're seeing now that actually the absence of religion causes absolute chaos, and the value system that religion provides, which I think is one of the most important things, the value system that it provides is absolutely necessary for society to function in a way that is good for the individuals within it. And I think that people become very, very confused if they don't have, a well thought out system of values. And I think we're seeing that in real time now, where society's become godless, and I think that that's meaning that people are becoming very nihilistic, and they don't seem to really have any sense of purpose. The mortality question and why we're here, all these questions do lead to something. Obviously you have the question of whether or not Jesus Christ rose from the dead. That's again another interesting question. Why did the apostles die for him? That's a very compelling argument, probably the most compelling argument, because resurrection was quite normal in those days in terms of a religious belief. Christopher Hitchens has some very good arguments against religion in his own right as well. Is religion something that can be used for control? Yes, but I think people within religion are not perfect, but religions can be perfect and can be used for good when they're used properly. So yeah, it's an interesting question, but I think yes, overall I am religious, and I see the necessity of religion within society. There are valid criticisms, there are problems that I have with it, not problems, but questions. I think questions, and I'm still trying to find out the answers. And I think that it's a journey that you have to go on, becoming, finding out your own way and finding out what you believe is not straightforward. And I'm still on that journey. I'm still trying to discover where I stand and the place that religion has in my life. But clearly it has a very key part. I enjoy going to church. I enjoy going and playing at these services. It's a very powerful, unique experience, not offered by much else in that regard. Becoming godless, and I'm not sure that the way that it's moving now is any better than it was when religion was a key part of human society and a key part of people's lives. I think people have become very confused, and some of the values and some of the ideas that are now being pushed by certain groups are not well thought out. They're very confused, they're illogical, and they don't lead to anything good as well. It's not good for society, it's not good for individuals. So I think it's a tricky one, but yes, I am religious. But anyway, that's the video today, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed that Q&A. It's been quite a long one, I think. Obviously I have to edit it now and see what I need to keep in, see what I need to take out. But yeah, coming up next, I'll be doing more recordings. I'm finishing off this classical album with the classical soprano, my own compositions. And yes, keep an eye out for live performances. I've got some live shows coming up in March. So yeah, I'll be getting back into live performing then as well. But yeah, just keeping busy, guys. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one. If you do have any more questions that I didn't manage to answer because you're not on my Instagram, or you're not, you didn't see my story that I put up asking for people to give me questions, then put them in the comments, and I'll see if I can do another Q&A soon, because I do enjoy doing these. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I'll see you shortly.